Oh, welcome to the Westmarch November Board of
October.
October. Good Lord, what is wrong with me? October Board of Directors meeting. That's my pre-coffee typing right there. Our secretary, Jose Chavez, is moving today, so he's unable to make the meeting. Our wonderful Queen is unable to make the meeting due to family situation, which is perfectly fine and acceptable. Tragically, we have a quorum. I'm very against this, but we do what we must. So I'm going to take roll call with people's permission. Andy Brown.
Present.
I am here. Sir Paul Wilkins.
That's Etal Rays or Sir Hate. Either way.
Yes. I should also say Sir Andy Brown, of course. Sir James Anderson.
I am here. I am not a knight.
I thought you were. I apologize. That's tragic. Also tragic. Rose Brown.
Yeah.
Tirza Brown, to be specific. And then we have some guests in attendance. The guests in attendance we have is Ethan Kopich.
Hello.
And we have, I'm going to scroll down on the list here. I apologize. Ben Smith, thank you for being here.
Hello.
Frankie Demento. Probably spelled your name wrong. I'm sorry. David Meyer Frank, whatever. I'm not going to spell that. And Chris Sapolu. Bear, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Glad to be here, folks.
We're always glad when you're here. Frank Infeld.
And also Stephanie Edwards.
I think Chris spells his name Kris.
Uh,
Nah, that's okay. You can put it at the common spelling.
on your Zoom title, it does say Chris with a C. Andy, who else was it? I can't remember. What's Stephanie's last name?
Edwards.
Thank you for a normal name. Thank you, Ben Smith and Stephanie Edwards. The rest of you, whatever.
What about mine?
Andy Brown is fine too. That's good. We'll give you that one. All right. So, I got somebody dropped in the chat. Hi, champion and group meeting. The champion of the board of directors. By God, is that Bear's music? Okay. So, would anybody like me to read the minutes of the last meeting, or do we want to move on from that? It's up to y'all.
I never actually saw them, but
I saw them and commented that they did not seem to be anyone with the link can view. They seem to be sorry, you're not a specific person, you don't get to view. So
Yes, unfortunately, the individual that uploaded those was they do it on Google Docs, which is fine. It's just not a preferred method, and it does cause those issues, which is why lazy people like me use Word. Okay, so here are the minutes from the last meeting. Now, I want to mention that when this board was put together, it was put together with a group of individuals that may have not jumped at being on the board. A lot of these people were volunteers, much like our monarch, who was not planning on running. It's just positions were being filled because there was low motivation and low desire to serve in these positions. I think with the 10 participants in a BoD meeting, that is starting to change. We have a good group of individuals who want to actually do things like read Kaporas in their leisure time. What is wrong with you people? Anyways, so here it is.
For a thread.
Yes.
I wanted to be clear for a second that I wasn't criticizing Chicken. I was just saying I wasn't able to read the document.
Oh, no. Nobody thought you were at all. Please don't think that in any capacity. It's important to say that a lot of us here weren't asked, were asked to be a part of this. It wasn't something that we just jumped to do. It was these positions needed to be filled or else, and so people stepped up to work. James hasn't been out of a position in leadership for more than a month for I don't know how long. And
I
sure
understand why you were confused why he didn't have a sir, if that's the case.
it's well, it's a Westmarch thing. Okay. Called a order and roll call. The September itinerary, I also took attendance. We had Andy, Paul, Tirza, James, Frankie, Eric, Jody, and Jody may be here for this meeting as well, and Mr. George Warner, who was the autocrat for Feast of Athena, which went amazingly. Ethan was also here. The meetings were approved. We talked about the Wells Fargo in process handoff, getting the bank account and the names of the right people. We had special consideration for individuals that had missed meetings, which we very simply just kind of rubber stamped because we had to. We talked about BoD getting benefits for look the part, and Andy Brown shot that down. We're all very sad about that. The monarch of Westmarch requested ledgers from all parks, and we're going to have an update on that from James Anderson, I believe.
Yep.
We discussed tithing for 2022 and 2023. We decided to attempt to find a pathway to forgive parks that had financial issues due to the pandemic. That's an ongoing situation. Does the BoD need to have any oversight on food fight? We did not. High fives all around. Bilingual flyer, tabled to October. Westmarch annual budget, help me finish it. People helped me. It was amazing. Request for scribe. We still don't have a scribe as of today. It's terrible. Nobody say anything. Feast of Gods, we talked about the budget and expenditures. We talked about yearly event insurance. We talked about a Kapora task force. I think something may have happened with that. Don't quote me on it. We talked about doing an update to the Code of Conduct Handbook or the Westmarch Code of Complaint Book. We talked about should we do a monarchy test. We talked about Paragon rules update, and we rubber stamped the rules that a very handsome bard wrote. We won't say who that person is. We talked about digital waivers, and that went reasonably well with some feedback from the Feast of Athena event. And we talked about getting prepared for the 2024 BoD and what we should add to the October all thing. Is everybody okay with the last month's meetings?
I move to approve these minutes as read.
Second. The competition.
Approved. We're doing. It's been approved. Okay. We're going to move on to the October agenda. Before I start getting into what is honestly a very small list, we have a lot of people in here who aren't normally part of the board of directors. Does anybody want the floor at this moment to discuss anything that might be time sensitive for your own personal time? Gonna go ahead and say no, apparently. All right. So we're going to jump right into on November 1st, which is a very short amount of time away, there is going to be an announcement posted on Discord and on Facebook announcing the BoD 2024 elections. At this point in time, which we've talked about previously, if you want to run again for next year, I encourage you very strongly to do so. If you do not, please do not feel obligated in any capacity, but try and mention your experiences this year to other individuals who may want to be part of this board moving forward. Andy or Frankie, do you have any recommendations on what the announcement should include?
I recommend it should include Milan saying he's going to be running again because Milan makes it much more fun.
Seconded.
Milan will not run.
Milan, Milan will be president for life.
I will probably attempt to be part of the 2024 board, but I don't know. I rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and I have no idea if I'll get the votes. And that's fine
really
with me. But seriously, if you want to run, there's a lot of good that can be done. And so, is there anything that we should include in the announcements? Because otherwise, I'm just going to post, "Yo, throw your name in the hat and let your prime minister know." Like, is there anything else that should be included with the announcement?
We might want to let them know what they're getting in for. Maybe not.
We want people to run. All right. So we'll just put here post announcement on all boards. People report to Westmarch PM. Sorry, James. All right. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to say at this point in time in this recorded meeting that will be posted on YouTube about the BoD 2024 elections? Lyriel.
I just want to let you guys know I'm going to be focusing on the XCOM committee that I'm a part of, so I will not be running for BoD again. But I encouraged my squire to, so I think you guys will see an Squire Athena here.
I would like to introduce Roisin, who will be running for it next year. Say hi, Roisin. Hi, Roisin.
Blink twice if you need help.
As a note, Roisin is my friend that we've been talking about on the Kapura committee for a while, who is a contract lawyer.
Well, I'm a lawyer. I don't necessarily, I have done contracts in the past. I don't do it right now, but I do have experience with it.
I have a concern that Roisin is too qualified to serve on a board of directors, and she may put a kibosh on my nefarious underhanded dealings because she'll understand my lingo, so I'm against her.
Game on.
Wonderful. The fact that we might have a contested BoD election would be amazing. I love that in every sense of the word. Okay, so
letting you know now, I will not be running.
Who said that?
James.
I believe that was Thistledown.
It doesn't get me out of it, but I won't be running.
James refuses to run. That's wonderful. I appreciate that very much. Okay, we're going to move on. James, since you refuse to run, you're going to have to give me an update on the Wells Fargo handoff, please.
Yes, the Wells Fargo handoff has been completed. I now have full access to the accounts. I visited them just today to do some stuff.
To update the SOP on how to do the handoff, is there anything that you would mention that should be added that our future members should know?
It required a lot of interaction remotely with our BoD treasurer, Andy. I talked to the bank on my end. He talked to the bank on his end. It eventually got done, but
Did you guys' system of both being in different banks at the same time seem to work out well?
That's the way that it finally did actually work.
Yeah.
So I think the best way to do it is basically set up appointments at whatever local bank at the same time and go through that there. Because basically what they can then do is fax information over and talk back and forth, and we can get all the signatures done all right there.
Awesome. Andy?
If alternatively, the treasurer and the prime minister live reasonably close to each other, you can both just go into the same branch at the same time. But yeah.
Andy, when you and Cindy did it, or was it was it you and Cindy that did the last handoff, or was it Cindy and James?
It was, so me and Cindy went in and got it done together when we both were put on.
Panal was the one leaving at that point.
Did
Right.
they accept the e-signatures when you guys did it, or did they still require a wet signature? Because I do not know if they accept the e-signature or not.
I believe we made wet signatures.
Okay, so I'm gonna put wet signatures.
And more importantly, when I went in to get things done for Thistledown, they told me they required wet signatures.
Cool. Thank you. That's important feedback, and I'll update the SOP for that. Cool. All right. Well, thank you for that. Anything else that you'd like to say about this, James?
So, somewhat related, to kind of squeeze it in between here and Ledger, is the virtual post office box was completed.
1 second. Let me grab this. We're going to move this up in between that and that. There we go. Okay, now that we're done with the Wells Fargo handoff update, let's talk about the digital PO box update. James, do you have anything to say about that?
Yes, it has also been completed. Mail is assuming someone mails us something, we have a place to receive it, and it will be scanned in and viewable on the iPostal One website.
We got that approved a year ago.
The difficult part on that was a post office form that was also required to be signed in, and between Andy and I, we eventually got that in and done.
Thank you. What was the biggest roadblock, in your opinion, to get the PO box done?
USPS form, what was it, 1528, that had to get filled out with a lot of extra addresses, and yeah.
When is the next time we will have to make updates to anything regarding the digital PO box to maintain it?
That form was a one-time thing. In theory, we can just keep paying the yearly fee and there will be no changes.
And how much is the yearly fee?
I believe it was 125, but I can double check on that.
That's fine for now. We'll call it an estimated $125. Now, a PO box at a local post office is roughly $100 a year, right? Like it's like $8.95 a month or something like that.
I believe when we were doing the comparison, it was within $15 of what the digital was.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that, Rose. So in the people in this meeting, and I want the people that aren't a member of the BoD as well to chime in, because you guys are important to this. If it's $15 more a year and we need a mailing address, we've got 3 choices. We've got Paul's house, a post office box in Sacramento, or we've got a digital mailbox. Paul's house is free. He doesn't have a choice. The post office box in Sacramento, Bear has to check. And the digital PO box, anybody can access at any point in time. Is $125 a year worth that?
Yes.
What is a digital PO box?
Great question.
Sounds like an email with extra steps.
It does.
What it is more is it's a place that we can have as our registered address.
You have to have.
It's a place we can have as a registered address that people can send stuff to. And instead of somebody having to go check that PO box, we get a notification of that we received something, right, James?
Yes.
We get a notification, and then we can actually get a scan of the item, and then I believe we can either have them scan the full thing or have them send it to us, right?
They can definitely scan the full thing. There may have been a forwarding as well. I don't remember.
Like they'll open our mail and send us its contents, and send us a scan of its contents.
Yes.
Huh. That seems incredibly useful and is definitely worth $15 over a PO box.
That's what we
Thank
figured
you.
last year.
Thank you,
Especially
Chris.
as the biggest problem we had with the physical PO box that came up was when we asked when it had been checked last, and no one knew. But the answer was, I think more like before my reign took over, and we're like, oh, that seems problematic if we received anything.
Yeah.
The pathway at this moment is, and here's one question, and I'm not the only person that have posed this question. What could we actually receive in the mail that we would ever actually want as a nonprofit? Do we need a mailing address? And the answer is yes, of course. Legally, we have to have a mailing address of some capacity. Why can't it be Andy's house? Why can't it be Ben's house? Why can't it be David's house?
Because that information then has to be updated every time that the recipient changes.
Yes, 100%. We'd have to file an SI 100, which is a form that can be filled out online. It's not difficult, but it is time consuming. And as we know with Wells Fargo, it's a pain in the backside sometimes. Plus, David could decide to go rogue and keep all our mail. That sort of thing.
Revising what I said before, the maintenance is $99 a year.
Okay, so it's $125 to set up, $99 a year.
Yep.
Which will actually make it cheaper than the PO box.
Same price or cheaper than a PO box, and don't have to burden Kyle with using their home address. Perfect. Okay, that sounds a lot more positive. I'm a big fan of free. I'm a big fan of using somebody's personal mailing address, but I understand completely how that is a burden and also could potentially be an issue with things like privacy, security, and trust. So $99 a year actually doesn't sound bad. That easily falls within the Monarch's discretionary spending. So we don't even have to bring this to an all thing, but we could bring this to an all thing and get a one-time approval for yearly spending. We could even make it year over year spending in an all thing. Is that something that we should bring in 2024? Because right now, do we have an approval to renew the digital PO box with spending?
I think it really depends on, I guess if the Monarch didn't agree with it, then we could go ahead and try and put it through an all thing. But if the Monarch's okay with it, can just do it through the Monarch draw. I don't see any downsides to doing that, because that's what the Monarch draw is for, is to run the business side of Vanguard.
I mean, we did pass funding the PO box through and all things, so I don't think that it actually is required to come out of discretionary spending, because we passed an all things specifically to switch from having a physical PO box that was paid every year to having a digital one. The only difference between the two is one is digital.
Rose, can you get me a copy of that vote that says we approve the PO box via all thing? I would really appreciate that.
I can try to look for it later.
Yeah, not this very second, of course. Just add it to your pile of things.
Yep.
Sweet. Okay. James, do you have anything else to talk to this digital PO box about?
Nope.
You are amazing. Okay. Ledger request from all parks as per Monarchy update. Our queen requested that all parks provide a ledger to show what needed to be done. Paul, do you have anything to talk about in place of Christine not being here? There was a ledger request from St. Kaya for all parks to submit to the PM and the treasurer for review. Paul might be having technical issues, and that's perfectly fine, of course.
Okay, well, I can start off.
I'm back. What's up?
Go for it, Paul. Do you have any, did St. Kaya want to say anything about the ledger request that they wanted to provide? Like, what information did St. Kaya want from the ledger request?
I can ask her. I can ask her right now if you want me to. I don't actually know.
She's actually very busy at the moment. We don't need to talk. It's fine. Her spouse is at work and she's dealing with a family issue. James, go for it.
So yes, most parks have submitted. I have collected those ledgers into a zip folder that I am now sharing in the chat, because as board of directors, we are allowed to ask for those.
Did you find that most parks had adequate ledgers?
Some parks had to create new ledgers. One in particular has just 2 lines on it, but they have started. Most parks did have an actual history on it. 3 of these are just text documents that include the link to their online ledger that they shared with me. So the lands that did not submit anything to me: Clockwork Spires, Faldair, Misty Vale, Wave Haven, and Quixotic Valley.
That's 6 parks. Is that correct?
Yes, but 2 of those are Aristoteles and Nimmer Sanctum are defunct parks anyways.
All right, perfect. In
So,
February,
before-
we requested ledgers and nobody ended up submitting any. So we did another request at the request of the Monarch, and surprise, surprise, the Monarch got feedback, got actual action. So 4 parks did not submit ledgers. Of the parks that did submit ledgers, they had to create them over the past 2 weeks. Was this a positive thing that we did? Is this something that should be done?
I will say that just from having been on the BoD pre-expulsion of audits, this is a lot more response than we would actually get with audits. I remember there usually would be like way more lands that just wouldn't submit any audits whatsoever. So 4 seems actually pretty good to me.
Love it.
I misspoke. That is 2 of the 7. 7 did not submit.
Okay, 5 is less good, but
Yeah.
I still think it's palpably positive, because several of these parks probably didn't have ledgers before us asking for them. So we're helping
Yeah, they now have them.
motivate them to be in compliance with the complaint.
I also put in 2 of the parks I talked to, and they are currently focusing on building up numbers and did not take in any dues, are not doing anything ledgers. So they at least responded to me that they're just not doing money right now.
And that's fine. So because of that, what are we doing in reaction to that? And I don't want to say anything negative in any capacity. Should they be allowed to vote on kingdom issues? Do they have any dues paid members? That sort of thing.
One of these parks certainly did pay dues to me. So we're figuring out, I know their PM has had COVID in the last little bit, so I'm a bit flexible there. Other lands did not pay dues or ledger, and I'm rather disappointed in them because they're very established lands.
I think we have to be a little patient with them. We can't bring down the hammer right away. We've gone through a year or 2 where nobody was paying attention to anything. Now we're saying, hey, we're paying attention now. We can't be like, we're paying attention and we're going to fuck you up if you don't comply right now.
It's true.
I mean, before we got rid of audits, lands would have to have difficulties twice before we would consider any kind of ramifications. And as a note, the only ramification we were really able to have was demotion. So how many of the parks that didn't submit anything are shires? And even if we did have ramifications, other than kicking them out of the kingdom over this issue, which I feel would be extreme and probably not pass an all thing, like what could we really do about it?
The only ramifications that I see is fair at all is, first of all, if you don't have a ledger, then you don't have a voting populace. And the other thing is, if you don't have a ledger, don't ask the kingdom to promote you.
Perfect. I appreciate that, Paul. Ben, you had a question.
I was mostly checking which parks didn't submit, but then I opened up the file and it tells me which didn't. So answered my question.
Okay, do we want to state who didn't submit and enter them into the notes or not? I intentionally did not enter them into the notes, but with a request I will.
My opinion is we don't need to do that this time around.
I agree. Thank you. The parks that did not submit ledgers still must submit ledgers. Just because they don't have one right now, I always prefer to lean towards leniency. And I would assume that the treasurer and the prime minister may also agree with this, but I'm not going to speak for them. Andy, as treasurer of the board of directors, how do you feel they should still submit ledgers as soon as possible? Should we keep up on these parks? What would you do?
I mean, I feel like Thistledown already said mostly what would need to be said. I mean, we still want to get that information, but I don't think we need to, attack people to do it.
Yeah, just encourage them. So I heard Mistyvale did not submit. They need to for being a barony, they definitely need to have a ledger. Was Azures Hall one of them? Because
Azures Hall was all clear.
Oh, really?
Do we want to consider looking at Mistyville a little bit more heavily, seeing as they were demoted from a duchy to a barony because largely of ledger issues?
When I talked to them last spring, they were talking of putting in a bid to be demoted to Shire. They did not give me a formal bid when I was king. I do not know if they have filed a formal bid in the last 6 months.
So can I jump in here?
Yes, of course, Ethan. The floor is yours.
So in the corpora for wordings about our audits, it actually doesn't give us much power to do anything about finances. It basically just says that, we can request audits. One of the things we can request is finances. But the main purpose of the audits for promotion and demotion is to make sure that they are maintaining the requirements of their land statuses. If you look at the requirements for land status, at no point in there does it mention finances. It just talks about like maintaining size, having contracts on file, meeting at certain periods, but it does not mention finances.
It doesn't mention having a bank account or maintaining a ledger?
It does not mention in here. It mentions it under the PM, that the PM is supposed to maintain a digital record, but that is a PM requirement, not a land requirement.
I would say,
I believe there is a big requirement for the principality.
Yes.
But the other really big thing with the ledgers is maintaining our nonprofit status. And that in particular falls under the BoD. And in that case, if it's a finances status and it specifically, if we have any reason to suspect that it's going to have any issues with our nonprofit status, then that would come up under the BoD to yank their contract.
Correct. That's what I was getting to, which is the power here is kind of limited. In the BoD could, issue as many warnings and citations as they want, but the only real power they have is to pull the contract.
I'm going to interject, and I apologize for interrupting. Section 9.2 of our corpora, we can review their financial records and can demote them with the approval of the monarch due to financial records and ledger over the past 6 months, including copies of the bank statements, proof of meeting attendance, or any other documents. So technically the board of directors can say, yo, Monarch, we should demote Shire Gata because their financials are crap.
Well, so what I'm wanting to point out though is, so 9.2 does talk about audits. That's the correct place. The part that talks about demoting, may consider demotion, is 9.2.3.2, which is they can be demoted for breach of contract, found not to be maintaining the requirements of their current land status, which is listed in 9.3. And then exceptions may be allowed if their numbers. So like if you then look at the requirements of their land status, which is 9.3, 9.4, 9.5, nowhere in there does it say like maintain finances.
The contract requires maintenance of proper financial records and adhering to state, local, and federal laws, which do include maintaining a nonprofit, which includes all financials. So we could go that route and go into section 10 and be like, it clearly says we have to follow federal record, and then we pull up federal record, it says you need to keep a ledger. And so we could do it that way. It's not clear in our board. It's not clear in our corpora. You're absolutely correct. I want to say Ethan is 100% correct. There is loophole pathways to demote them based upon their ledger.
But I think in particular, we can do things like remove their contract, but we really can't do things like deny them voting status on the basis of ledgers.
As long as their tithes paid, yes.
Yes.
That is a wonderful...
Be very suspect about their votes.
Let's talk more about that. That is a very good point, because if I'm a member of Shire Gata and Shire Gata doesn't have a good ledger, why am I not allowed to vote? That's a very good question.
So along those lines, two things here. The first is only one land paid dues that did not give me a letter. That is Quixotic Valley, who is currently sick and will get it to me. I'm sure of that. The more problematic is the lands that did not respond at all do not seem to have a functioning prime minister.
Okay.
That is a bigger problem.
Which lands did not respond to that?
Misty Vale and Wave Haven.
I'll check in with Misty Vale. I don't really have a lot of...
That is the other problem that got them demoted from duchy to barony, is the fact that they had like 4 PMs in a 6-month period.
Rose, I'm stepping away for 5 seconds.
Okay.
1.
But actually, they are required to maintain, the office of prime minister. All lands are. And so that is actually something that they can be demoted for.
Yeah.
There's probably a prime minister. I just don't know who it is or why they're not responding, but I'll find out.
Thank you.
Are there non-tithing parks that are trying to vote on kingdom issues that claim to have dues paid members?
There have historically, as of last semester, been, but this semester it's being watched more. Thistledown is doing an excellent job.
So yeah, the ones that are have no voting members, Clockwork Spires and Faldair, have not been trying to vote.
Is Faldair finally a shire? They were a barony for years while also never doing anything that you'd require a barony to do.
I do not know their current size. And oddly, the orc doesn't tell me the size of a park.
Yeah, I was noticing
what do you mean?
that. I feel like it used to. I feel like there used to be a section that you'd look at and it'd be like Shire of Siergata, Duchy of Siergata, and now it's just Siergata.
That's because every
have that
corpora has a
question as
different
well.
size.
Well, no, like those are common sizings though. Shire, barony, duchy. I swear it used to list that on the orc, but it doesn't anywhere anymore. You have to look into the land descriptions to see if they say.
And that's self-written in, so easily out of date.
Yeah.
I actually did have that question because I did see that the board of directors recommended that Clockwork Spires be elevated to a barony in August of last year. But I couldn't find whether or not any all thing had happened about it.
They are a barony.
Confirm that.
I don't think it was
Okay.
last year. That was like longer ago than that, I think.
No, it was last year. They should have had
I-
it before that.
Yeah, I went through the
And
record.
they kept on not getting it mainly because people would screw them over on the audits. Like I remember one audit, they did a demo and the board of directors voted them down from getting an excellent because even though they had pictures of people fighting and they had a sign-in sheet, they didn't have pictures of the sign-in booth. And they were denied barony status because they didn't have pictures of a sign-in booth. It made
That's
me so fucking
obnoxious.
pissed off.
That's obnoxious.
Yeah. That is exactly why when the vote to terminate audits came through, it passed so absolutely, even though not having audits may in some ways be not a good idea, people were fucking done with that system.
Awesome. I apologize for having to step away. Can somebody answer this for me? David brought up a very interesting point. Non-tithing parks, should they be allowed to vote on kingdom issues? Can
No.
we legally stop them from voting?
Yes.
Or they can vote, but we don't have to count their votes.
That is exactly what tithing gives you the ability to do.
Yes, I said non-ledger submitting parks. Non-tithing parks clearly shouldn't be allowed to vote.
Okay, good. All right. And I appreciate that clarification there. Non-ledger submitting is fine to vote. Non-tithing go to
Oh, I just came back. I went all the way down to Travis to finish my.
I would say that we couldn't block them from voting, but it might be something to bring up demoting them if they are anything above a shire because they are clearly not maintaining records.
No. It's actually very easy. So section 2233 in the Kapora says in order to be a voting member, you have to be part of a park that tithes to the kingdom. So it actually
but
removes all of their members from voting status.
we weren't
Yeah,
worried about
I
tithing.
mean
We were
the
worried about
ledger
submitting
thing.
the ledger.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
So
I apologize for misspeaking there. I misunderstood the conversation.
So I'm saying if somebody paid, dues and their park tithes, but their PM isn't maintaining a ledger, I don't think we could block the individual people from voting, but that could be something to, start talking about demoting them if they're above a shire because they're clearly not maintaining records like they're supposed to.
Love it. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to put this out there just because I've been asking for it for quite some time. And I would love somebody to take the Westmarch flyer and put it into another language. I would prefer that somebody would be able to put it into Spanish as the first bilingual flyer and waiver. If anybody's willing to tackle that project, please PM me off-site, off-screen, on Discord, on Facebook. I don't care. It's something I really would like to get done, and my plate is too full to do it. I also do not speak any Spanish at all, except donde está la biblioteca?
All right, time to submit a very silly flyer to Milan and say it's a Westmarch flyer.
I will post it everywhere immediately. Okay. Now another thing that's been tabled forever, I really like someone to
Help James out.
help James out. I'd love for somebody to be a scribe. Do we know anybody who might be interested in being a scribe? To this point, to this very second, nobody's wanted to be a scribe. Do we have any recommendations?
What does it entail?
That is Roshin.
Somebody was raising their hand. Hold on one second. Somebody named Ben Smith. I don't know who that is. Ben, you have the floor. You're still muted. Sorry. You're still muted. It's because I keep muting you. Go for it.
I volunteer for you.
What do you volunteer for?
Be the scribe.
Oh, that already passed. All right, so we're going to move
Okay.
on. Ladies
So,
and gentlemen, Ben
can I
Smith
answer your-
volunteered to be the scribe. God forbid we may have a scribe until he magically disappears next month like our last scribe. It was very nice to know you, Ben. I hope you have a wonderful November wherever you end up.
Yes. Thank you for volunteering. I've already been in touch with Kaya to see if there is any newsletter items that she is interested in having our scribe put out. Otherwise, there's recording the notes of the meetings, recording the notes of all things. It's pretty flexible positions.
So just to confirm,
The Westmarch
down, James.
BoD is a big fan of flexible positions.
So to confirm, James, you're officially appointing Alan as the scribe.
Yes.
If you wanted,
Okay.
you could be the scribe for SG.
Thank you very much for appointing Ben. Thank you for letting me mute him several times. I like to mock people that volunteer. That will not stop. Get used to it.
It is an odd position that it is appointed by the PM, but it's mostly working with the monarch or here at the BoD.
As the monarch is in charge of all the things you'd be taking notes
Yes.
for.
Work with the regent to maintain calendar. Work with the monarch for the newsletter. Get budget from the PM. So it's working with a lot of different offices.
You also
Okay,
accept letters from other officials. What is the methodology for that? Just send them to you on Facebook or something?
say that one more time.
Oh, one of the options for scribe is that they can accept letters, may request letters from other officials. I've never been clear on what that means.
So
I
like if the champion wanted to have a letter to the populace, the champion could submit it to the scribe for the
Gotcha.
newsletter.
I've always also taken that as like if people from other lands wanted to give information for the newsletter, that the scribe could do that. I don't really know why it would need to say that, because that just seems like part of making a newsletter, but that's how I read it.
Some of this feels like a holdover from before Facebook. I do recommend you talk to Lady Bridget about that part, though. Her Hungarian mail service seems like it could link in with this quite well.
Now, I was also wondering if we wanted to use it for lands to make larger announcement about events that they have upcoming.
Yes, as opposed to just talking about it at Feast of Gods, Court, or something. Also put out upcoming events in the newsletters.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of parks across Westmarch that host events, and they post it, on their page, and then the park right next door may not even know about it.
It's supposed to come out at least once every 3 weeks.
Hey, guess what? I'm doing a small event in November. I'm not sharing with any of you guys though,
Thank you.
because Milan doesn't need that.
Milan doesn't want 100 people showing up and trying to camp in his backyard.
I mean, I'm totally down with that. I just don't have the parking.
We'll charge
I'm officially
$20.
off
It'll
work.
weed people out.
Thank fudging fudge.
Bear, you're welcome. But it's the week before coronation, so I don't know if any Northerners next winter travel.
My park actually has their coronation that week, the week before coronation, so no.
So is ours. That's what our event is.
Yeah.
It's actually
It's
Dragon
not-
Guild
That was
coronation,
actually the one
but
I was thinking of, is that we're running a Tri-Lands coronation with 3 parks up here.
we're
Oh,
totally
that's
doing
right.
5.
Bear posted that today. If you are up in Northern California, go to the Tri-Lands coronation. It looks like it's going to be a big thing, and Bear is going to be there, so you should all be there.
Since
What
the
if I'm-
Kapora, in fact, requires that local lands have their coronations 1 week before or after the kingdom, it's a very busy time.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
really wish that the Kapora could be changed to say must have the election, and then local lands could have their coronation whenever, because I don't really understand why our party has to be within a week of the kingdoms.
But that's not a board of directors, Adam.
I
Well,
was
we
gonna
could
say-
submit it as Rose submit it as an all thing, or better yet, make the scribe do it.
Yeah, well, I also wanted to point out, because we only require parks to meet once every other week, they may not be meeting the week before or after.
That's true.
Yeah.
True.
Actually, Thistledown, just as a side note, can we try and schedule all things for 2 weekends long? Because I know that it's weird, but we do have parks that only meet every other week. So if you schedule the all thing on the week they're not meeting, it can make things a little weird.
The Corpora lists a single Monday to Monday time span, but you are correct. But that is by far a very good proposal to change in the all thing.
Fair.
All right. Do we have any interest in moving on from talking about us actually having a scribe to the next topic?
Move on. Proposed.
All right. When Darkshore ended, I requested financials from Darkshore. At this point in time, I have not received them, which is fine. I'm nobody. I want to know if we have the post-event financials for Feast of the Gods. Do we have the financials from Feast of the Gods?
Yes.
I love that. Where are they housed for oversight? And can we make them available for future event stewards, which grossly Westmarch calls cracks, which is the most cringe-worthy name in the history of anything. It's right up there with moist.
And Milan.
I
That's
mean, I'm
fine.
pretty sure that's a Amtgard wide term, not just Westmarch.
Yeah, that's like being the coolest kid with Down syndrome.
It's very
So,
offensive.
they are in the ledger, which the board of directors already has access to, but I will also put the totals for them into the chat here.
Amazing. The reason I'm asking is simply because I would very much like the financials to be shown so that other event stewards can see exactly what was spent previously, so that they can know what their target is and potentially they can better it, so to speak. And I think that's a fine thing that we should be able to track. James, this information is posted, I'm assuming, on the Westmarch Google Drive.
Yes, it is within the ledger, the perpetual ledger on the Westmarch Google Drive.
And is there a way to make
I-
that?
I could also make this tiny little snippet here also available there if there's interest.
What I was hoping is that we find a pathway to make this a viewable, public viewable link so that future crats can look at this and see it. And we can be like, here's the link right here. Here's where you go. Here's where you can see all the information.
Instead of doing a access to the ledger for that, would it be better to make like an audit that shows the breakdown of that, but as a separate document so that it's not jumbled in with all the other expenses for the year?
That would be much easier to read, especially since the ledger currently has every day's worth of gate fees from the pre-signups from August through event, all as individual line items.
It's like 100 lines.
I
Yeah.
would be
Perfect.
willing to create an audit to show that information. I do it every day for work, so I'm used to like doing that and being annoyed with huge line item things. That's just called 8 o'clock to 8:15 for me.
May I
If
make a
Andy
suggestion?
wanted to get together with me.
Yes, whoever said that, you could definitely make a suggestion.
It's me, Ethan, again. So far I have been hosting all of the bids that I've ever seen, which is like 8, just on my personal Google Drive, because I haven't found a place where Westmarch stores them. I would recommend that Westmarch officially stands one of those up and then puts this type of information in there that is purged of any PII.
That is amazing. I'm going to do a new screen share because
Sebastian, the bids themselves or the winning bid and how the event turned out? What are you suggesting?
I would
there?
do everything.
I 100% agree with that. On the Westmarch BoD AMP wiki page where I dump everything, there is a link to Westmarch event bids. Gee, I wonder whose drive this could be. Do you want to go through this at all, Ethan?
Yeah, sure. So basically, these are just the ones that I've seen over the years that will periodically pop up on Facebook. So I've just been grabbing them and throwing them into this drive for now, just so it exists.
And thank you for making it public. That is amazing. So again, if there's anything that you ever want to try and find, my goal is that this is going to be just a giant spam of useful links. So I encourage you very strongly to bookmark it. And if you do something, I will steal it and I will absolutely give you credit. Because Lord knows Westmarch doesn't give people credit.
Where do people submit the bids usually as is? Is it just to the Westmarch email?
That would be nice. No, most of the time they either go into a private message or just Facebook in general.
It needs to be public legally. That's full stop. It can't be private message. It has to be publicly hosted so that anybody and everybody can read every last page of it. That is the law.
Well, the submission has to be public, but submitting it to a source doesn't necessarily. So like Westmarch should have somewhere where we are posting them that they can be publicly viewable. But it would also be good if there was one specific collection site so that if you're like, gee, I wonder where such and such bid is, instead of having to be like, was that, posted on Facebook? Was it messaged to the PM at the time? Was it messaged here or there? Like, I feel like making a policy of we will only accept it if it is submitted to the Westmarch email so that we have the submission, and then having the Monarchy post it to the Facebook so that we have them. We're not like, hey, if we want to find it for some reason, possibly legal later, we're not having to dig through 15 different places to try and figure out where was it actually submitted.
Thank you. That's absolute. Yeah, 100%. Thank you for clarifying that for all of us, Rose. The only thing I would make an edit on is never using Facebook ever again for anything. That is a personal opinion that I hope continues to grow. The fact that we still talk on Facebook Messenger makes my teeth itch.
Yeah, one final note on this is actually it is required that a simplified bid is on the Alving. So far we've been doing that as just the line item budget cost for one, the total. But it actually says a simplified bid. So
yep. Right now we are compliant thanks to Sebastian's event bid file holder. So please keep that up. You'll never be thanked for it, but our nonprofit status depends upon you. Have fun with that.
glad to help.
All right. Rose, if you could potentially create that audit, I will buy you, I don't know, root beer or coffee or whatever you want. Just tell me what you want.
Root beer's my stick. She wants coffee.
Got it.
I don't necessarily like coffee. I take sriracha or Mexican candy, ginger beer. Unlike Andy, I have a whole wide range of things. You'll notice none of them are English though, because English sucks.
I do have one addition to the numbers that I posted. I have a note for $180 regarding the relics. I do not know if that was supposed to be it just says cash. I do not know if that was income to the event or outgo from the event.
That was outgo. Yeah, they brought in like 500 from the relic auction.
Okay. I will look more into that, but that is the remaining question on the budget.
Yeah, if Andy and or Thistledown can just send me the ledger and any other things, or like a screenshot of what is for the event specifically, and then I'll compile it into one doc and take like all of the individual payments and just make that one line that says payments and has a total and stuff like that.
This is crazy, guys. Look at that. Look at that payout for holding an event where we had, I think it was like 180 people, just an incredible turnout. And we were able to turn a profit, and there were no major complaints that I have received at this point in time. That's awesome.
Put a marker between other and gate there, because gate was income and the rest were outflow.
Yeah. All right, well, let's do this.
Okay.
Set up?
Yep.
Perfect. That's great. I love it. Before we move on to the next things here on the list, I would like to bring up something that was talked about, and it's the Westmarch October committee, which is unofficial, of course. They brought up that another October, and Ethan, I'm going to lean on you for this, that allowed legalized bribery. And I very much would like this to become a part of the Westmarch board of directors, because I honestly, I like money. I really do. Can we talk more about that?
Something along the lines of the BoD can take money from entities for business purposes. And it's like,
Yep.
don't say that.
Yeah, that is the Rivermore Articles of Incorporation, Article 6, subsection 3, gifts. The board of directors may accept on behalf of the corporation any contribution, gift, bequest, or device of the general purposes of or for any special purpose of the corporation, which has the lovely wording of basically saying the BoD is allowed to accept money from other people for anything.
Huh.
Yes. I posted the exact wording in the
Something
chat.
tells me that interferes with nonprofit status.
Now, that's one of the benefits of becoming a 501c3, I'm just going to say. But I'm going to drop this in here, and thank you, Ethan, for finding this. I would like to put this to a vote of the members of the board of directors that are here. I say we should immediately institute this as Westmarch policy. We should bypass the all thing and monarch approval, and just, this can be just a board of directors thing. Nobody else has to listen. I'm going to call for a vote right now. I vote yes. James, Rose, Andy, and Paul.
You know what they say, if you can't amaze them with your brilliance.
I'm thinking.
Let's see what we got in the chat here. Crickets. Now, nobody's ever going to watch this. It's going to be posted on YouTube. Nobody's ever going to watch this. So,
I mean, you're probably right, but
I know. The only one that was really watched was the August one, which talked about diversity and inclusion. It's at about 50 views. It's been talked about quite heavily, and I think it was a really good meeting. And
That's
if you
cool.
haven't watched the August
watched
meeting,
last
watch
month's
the August
meeting.
What's that?
I watched last month's meeting.
yeah, but you're in this one, so you're not going to watch this one.
That's true. Oh my God,
You don't
Jody.
know that. You can't promise that's true.
Jody is in this meeting too. Hey, Jody. Do you support legalized bribery? I'm voting yes.
I'm not sure. Legalized and bribery are kind of an oxymoron for me, so.
That's a very fair point. Can you see the Rivermore 3.1 gifts?
Yeah, on your screen share.
Yes, this is part. I'm sorry, I'm not going to take the thunder from the individual that found this. Please, Ethan, explain this.
I'm not sure I want to be associated with this anymore. But yeah, so in Rivermore, they have they broke the corporas into two parts. The first is the corpora, and the second part is the Articles of Incorporation, which are the rules for the BoD and the corporate side of Rivermore. And they use this wording that basically allows the BOD to accept any gift on behalf of the land.
I think this is a wonderful idea. I think this can only bring us positivity.
I would expect that this is true, absent language to the contrary. I'm pretty sure if someone gives you money for Westmarch, you can currently take it and accept it as a bribe or not, as you will, one of those being a crime.
Well, within our operating, we actually have to limit how much we can take from people outside of Westmarch. And that's the
100%.
biggest problem with the C7.
That's what I was gonna say, is I thought that there was either an annual income
30%.
or donation limit. And then
It's a,
I guess
it's a
part of
limit.
the thing I have is the word bribery, because I don't know what you would be bribing somebody on the board of directors to do or not do.
There's lots of things we could technically do.
I'm bribing them to not yank the contract for inadequate financials.
Yeah, that's true. We could technically vote to, like, I don't know, ban SG from Westmarch.
I moved to table this discussion until after the recording is stopped.
Yeah, and I'm not a voting member, so I'm just gonna listen. But thanks.
Obviously, this has been brought up in jest. We're not going to do this because it is sketch, to say the very least. But it's just incredibly wonderful. And I have to tell you, I've been laughing about it ever since that you brought it up. It was, it's just the best. It makes me so happy.
I think there's been a lot of things Sebastian's found that have been interesting.
Yep, to say the least. This is wonderful. Obviously, we're not going to do this. I have no idea how Rivermore got away with this, but since we are being recorded, I do have a Venmo and a PayPal, so don't be afraid to reach out if there's something specifically you want talked about. Okay, we'll just go ahead and do this. La, la, la. Maybe we'll do this too. La, la, la. There we go. That looks fine. Okay. V9 is being released soon for play testing. And the reason that this is being brought up in the BoD meeting is, do we have to do anything regarding contractual law with the AmpGuard International Group? Are we allowed to play test V9? I would assume yes, but I don't know.
I can speak as the COM representative. They're officially authorized by the Circle of Monarchs, and the Circle of Monarchs also owns the XCOM. The IABOD is technically a committee of the COM. So the COM authorizing V9 means that we're allowed to without breach of our contract.
All we needed. Super easy. Thank you, Paul. That's awesome. Does anybody else have anything to speak to that about V9 being played in Westmarch parks? As long as there's crickets, we can move on.
Rose,
Cool.
if you're trying to talk into the meeting, you're muted.
Who muted me? I would say that the only thing for that is we can't require parks to play test, but it would be a good idea if they play tested, you know, if they want to have any say on changing anything they find that they don't like.
Wonderful. Frankie, do you want any feedback from parks that are play testing V9, or are you already on top of that?
I mean, they are free to send that through me, but I'm not representing V9 as the rules represented. Like, so the best way to do it is for them to go send that feedback directly to V9 through the V9 Discord. I'm happy to do that for people, but I don't want to do more work.
I apologize. I thought you were the rules representative just because of your posts on Facebook.
Yeah, it's weird. because V9 doesn't really have rules representatives. It has 5 people who are running it, and then as the Westmarch rules representative, I've been
Alright,
taking it
have a
upon
nice night,
myself
man.
to try to help
Yeah.
notify people about what's going on and
Oh,
keep
yeah.
communication there. But yeah, I'm not any more special than the rest of y'all.
Cool. All right. Coronation in November. We have a smooth election going on. Is there anything that the BoD needs to discuss about the extensive November all thing, the coronation and local lands elections? Is there anything we need to discuss? I don't believe so, but it's on the list.
The only thing I can think of is getting a list of monarchs that have changed after the election, so we can get all of the Circle of Monarchs and various other things updated to ensure smooth communication.
Which
You know
I
who
brought up to the shires that it would be a really good idea for the lands to still, save copies of who got elected when, just in case it ever comes up in the future.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to justify orders of the crown if you don't keep records of who had office when.
Yeah, it'd be really nice if all the parks updated their AMP wikis or kept like an Excel sheet or something like that. But we can't get them to keep a ledger. So unfortunately,
Well, if the next monarch requests an audit, one of the things they can request is all the officers, and that is a requirement that is demotionable if they fail to provide a list of their officers, because then we cannot prove that they have met their land requirement.
cool. Well, hopefully the next monarch will request that the scribe gets the list. Deal with that, scribe. Okay. All right. We are down to the last topic for this month's meeting, and it is Forecast 2024. What I would like is for people to toss out what they would like to see the board of directors talk about in 2024. I'm going to ask for a majority opinion of everybody in the room on should Westmarch discuss becoming a 501c3 in 2024.
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
I want to say on public record that there are some people that have been against going to a 501c3. So it's not 100%. I think it's like 95%, but we still need to take into account everybody's voice. Okay. Updated BoD verbiage. We have had individuals throughout the entire year say, hey, the BoD can't do that. Wait, did somebody say something?
Sorry, I was talking to my coworker.
My apologies, Paul. We've had people throughout 2024 say, oh, the BoD can't do that, when they just don't know how much the BoD can actually do. Do we want to update the BoD verbiage in the Corpora to align with what the state of California says that a nonprofit board of directors can do? Or do we want to let that lie?
So I'm personally focusing my energies on the Corpora committee has what we've talked about is studying the structure of corporas and coming up with a whole corpora that's cogent, so we don't have to keep jingle jangling things around every all thing. So that's personally what I would put my energy into.
Well, I think
I
the
think
question
rather
here
than
is,
creating,
sorry, go ahead.
rather than adding this in as an amendment, as has been suggested, working to just rewrite the corpora from scratch and making sure to include that. Since I think even as it is, we still keep getting a bunch of amendments, and rather than constantly barraging the kingdom with amendments, just give them, here's one big one, let's work on it and then finalize it.
Agreed. One thing I would say I've seen in a lot of Caporas is they talk about like the order of precedence, and one is always like state, federal, and local law. And then it comes like BOD bylaws to make sure that we are legal and meeting all of our requirements. And then all of the game Capora requirements.
I would be a big fan of cutting and pasting a good Capora breakdown of what the board of directors can do so that people know, because there's going to be board of directors in the future and monarchy in the future that do not understand what the board of directors can do. And I think creating a cohesive description will be valuable in the future for other board of directors, such as our August meeting, which was almost after an unfortunate situation was legally mandated.
Yeah. I would say I would be a little concerned about just like writing and all the California laws we're trying to abide by, because those can update independent of us. So it might be worth keeping a document that we reference outside the Capora, just so that way it can be updated more easily. You know, like a set of BOD bylaws or something like that. Just say the Capora enforces these laws and then just leave it at that.
I would like to see eventually a BOD handbook created. There is one. It was created by Fix. It's tragically a little outdated, and that's not Fix's fault in any capacity. He did 47,000 things, and we did not deserve it. But I would like to see a BOD handbook created, and that would keep it
all in favor of Milan writing that handbook.
It's on my list, man.
I already said my favorite thing to do is assign.
What's that?
I already said my favorite thing.
Yeah.
My favorite thing to do is to assign Milan work. I got you, Utah.
Thank you, Sir Hate. I can't find my my list of things to do.
Really?
So
I mean,
you
it's
have
pretty
a new
large.
number one.
Oh my God. That might be a problem.
This is definitely going into a therapy session.
As a positive or a negative for you, Etah?
No, I was saying if I was Milan.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Me,
It's
I wouldn't
somewhere,
make
I'll
a
find
list. I wouldn't make a physical list because I know I would lose it. I have to put all my lists on Google Drive where I can search them.
My list is on.
I can't do lists. I just lose them or forget about them.
I don't forget about lists. There's some lists I use and reference almost every day, and like couldn't get my job done without them because I'm not like a memorize thing kind of person.
I
All
just
right.
can't remember to look at the lists.
Is there any big overreaching a topic that isn't listed here that we should potentially add to the list? And the reason being is I would like to create a year-long itinerary for the 2024 Board of Directors. We're going to talk about this in January. We're going to talk about this in February. We're going to talk about this in March, and have an estimated completion date for those topics as well. Basically, write out the entire year is what I would like to do. Obviously, we don't have to stick to that, but having that type of organization can potentially be positive. So is there anything anybody in this meeting would be like, hey, this should be talked about? We've got some incredible people in here. We've got Jody in here. We've got Paul in here. We've got Andy in here. Like, what should be added?
I actually have a question. Did we review the FOG site contract before the event?
That's true.
I think
I'm just going to put event site contract because it's also Dark Shore. Paul, are you talking about?
I think.
Huh?
I think BOD oversight of our event contracts is really important. I managed to not mess things. We can't always assume everyone, and it's not just intention, but also ability. We have to provide a little bit of extra oversight just to make sure that things don't go terribly wrong.
Well,
That is one thing Westmarch is lacking is oversight. I completely agree.
was the site contract in Westmarch's names or in the autocrat's name?
For Darkshore and Feast of X, they are actually Westmarch events. So the contract, at least for Darkshore, we actually signed it for Darkshore.
Jody is saying in the chat that Darkshore was there in their name.
Was it? Then why'd we? I mean, I know we at least we reviewed it.
I think we reviewed it because they wanted us to, somebody vaguely put it forward and wanted us to. But it seemed when we did review it that like everything was in the runners' names and the contract is with them, not necessarily Westmarch. I just remember because I remember bringing up, did we want to switch to having that with Westmarch and maybe get the contracts done before we even choose event people? And I think the answer was the event changes based off of who's running its timetable. So we didn't want to do that, which also makes it kind of like, why are we reviewing the contract if it's with them and the event site and not really with Westmarch?
It's a Kapora event, and it's using Kingdom funds. So even
Jody,
if
you can speak at any point in time.
even if the autocrat writes their name, it's still a Westmarch event.
It is a Westmarch event, but if someone were to be sued off of the contract and Westmarch is not listed anywhere,
Whenever you do the site contract with King City, you have to spend extra money to indemnify Westmarch. Your name is on it, but so is Westmarch's.
okay,
May I speak?
my question.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I want to say you do not have to ask to speak in the Westmarch Board of Directors meeting while I'm president. Just speak. Everybody has the floor.
I can't find the raise hand emoji, and I didn't want to interrupt because that's rude. But
sure.
when I've autocrated events, the contract, the application that goes through is my name as a representative of Westmarch. The all of the communication with the Monterey County Parks is in my name as a representative of Westmarch. When I do the event helper insurance, it is my name as a representative of Westmarch. I have submitted everything to the BoD. I think the Darkshore was in 2019, the Game of Thrones one. I don't know if before that, but because I was on the BoD, I brought the contract with the Monterey County Parks Department to the BoD for their purview and their review. I don't know that that was officially done, but the events that I've autocrated didn't really go through Westmarch and that formality. It was me as a representative. It was my name. And there was in the last, the Darkshore, the last one, there was actually a meeting with the public because there's like now transparency. And there was a meeting with all of the different events for the Monterey County Parks Department. There was races and motorcycle races, and we were one of the things. And it was just to review what are your like pop-ups in your tents? What are your just kind of different things that needed to be brought forward, which was totally new. I did that personally as a representative of Westmarch, and I was not a BoD member or any official capacity other than autocrat of an event.
When we accept a bid from a CRAT, we are making that individual the liaison for the event. When Jody signs the form for Darkshore, she is signing as an authorized representative of Westmarch. That fulfills all contractual security obligations.
An authorized representative, but that doesn't mean the BoD no longer has contractual oversight.
I'm just talking about protection of Westmarch.
Okay, well, so everything Jody is saying is correct. My name was on everything. I put Westmarch's name on it, but my name was primary because I was the contact. But it is in the contract that we must indemnify Westmarch. So every time I ran an event, there was an extra clause that indemnified Westmarch and all its officers.
And we need to protect the autocrats as the liaisons. There is no way that Paul or Jody or Chris or Andy should be responsible for issues. That should always fall upon Westmarch.
And I think that's been kind of part of a discussion is you can't, it's really hard to have the BoD liaison coordinate directly with the Parks Department and be the representative for an event because that's the CRAT.
Oh no, that's not what I'm asking for at all right now. All I'm asking for is BoD review of the contract.
So, Jody, correct me if I'm wrong, but that final review with the Monterey Parks Department, was the contract official before then, or was it after then?
That's better, I think.
Hello?
We can hear you, Jordy. We can hear you.
No, I'm here. I just wanted my video on because I didn't want to just be a black screen. So because I've worked with the person at the Monterey County Parks Department for a bit, the event site was reserved for us before there was a contract signed. So the contract and all of the paperwork formality was actually done kind of after that. So you've got the site, you've got this weekend, it's all good. When we get everything organized, then we'll send you the application and we'll do all the paperwork. The last Dark Shore, because there was this extra, there's always an extra thing, because there was this extra thing about this public meeting, that was like, let's say 3 weeks before the event. So we did that, and that had to be a formality to get our final approval. And then what ended up happening with that is because the timing of that was so close to the event date that when we actually got that checked off and got all of the paperwork done and then actually were able to pay, we had to pay with a credit card. And the outside credit card entity said, oh, okay, well, we don't accept debit cards, and now we don't have enough time to pay with a check. So now there's a 3% fee, I think it was, which was like $75.
We've paid that for this event as well.
Yeah, and it was because of this extra thing at the last minute close to the event that now we have to pay. And everything went smoothly, but then when I went back and I asked Donna, is there any way that we can get this refunded because it wasn't really our thing? The outside company said, nope, sorry.
So that's exactly what I had heard for this Feast of Gods. I was one of the Krats, and I know James and Dagger were on there as well. And it was this very similar thing of like, George, the autocrat, was trying to schedule that meeting, but the Monterey Parks Department, I think, scheduled it 2 weeks before our event.
Yeah.
And then they had to like do all the final signings and paperwork like in that 2 weeks. Like the site was held and reserved for us, but we weren't actually on contract with them until the final public review.
Correct. That's what happened to me too. And that's, I don't know that that's really in our control. It's, you know, when is our event date, which Donna has been awesome in honoring that and is going, you guys have been here for years. You've got the date. That's not an issue. But there's so many other events in Monterey County. That's like a whole different thing. And when that's scheduled, there's so many events that need to be considered for our event. It pushed it up so that we still had to pay that fee. And we didn't know what the final fees were going to be.
Well, we weren't even on contract, technically. We weren't technically on contract until that final review. Right? So it's like, if they're only giving us, 14 days from that review to being on the facility, like the BoD doesn't have time to review that contract. We just have to allow the autocrat that power.
Exactly. As a representative of Westmarch.
With the money that these events are making, a $90 charge is a drop in the hat. Obviously, it's still a $90 charge. That's still something that we should be addressing and trying to avoid. But at least we're still making quite a wonderful profit on these events. And that's, that's great.
Well, we are, but that hasn't been the case in the past. The case in the past has been, we make $1,000 and part of that goes back into the Westmarch coffers. I think it's $400, and then a little bit goes back into the event fund. But then with the site costs increasing and all of that, that $75 or $90 has been more significant.
Yeah, I would like to get rid of it. I've been very vocal about mandating that all charges are automatically denied unless they're submitted 30 days in advance. But obviously with Monterey County, it's possible that we can't even get it more than 2 weeks in advance. So where do we stand on that? How do we avoid it?
They did weird last minute stuff with me too. The last time I ran an event, I sent them a check and they said they didn't get the check, and then they did get the check and then they sent it back. It became this whole big thing. But I think we can still have an autocrat come to a BoD meeting and say, this is my bid, this is the money I'm asking for, this is the money how I intend to spend it.
That's absolutely something that the board of directors should require for all events. It's literally part of the California Code of Conduct for board of directors is being oversight and fiduciary for the nonprofit.
Have we typically just done that through Monarchy and the PM? That's because that's what I did, is I went to the PM and I worked with them, and I didn't really go through the BoD per se. It was, hey, here's what's going on. I need this money. So with Cindy, it was like, I need this money. Can you send it? And then she coordinated with the Parks Department. I guess as PM, she was part of the BoD, but I didn't go to the BoD. I went to the PM.
Legally, all contracts have to go through the board of directors. All contracts need to be approved by the board of directors to move forward, regardless of what the monarch or the PM says.
It also says that in Arcopora.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that it's been done that way, and that's fine. Nobody cares. But legally, any Dark Shore and any Feast of Athena has to be approved by board of directors to move forward.
So then the autocrat would need to contact the board of directors, and you would have to hold an emergency BoD meeting to approve that.
If they can't get it 30 days in advance, then yes.
Okay, just because I'm liaison on the bids going forward, so I just want to make sure, because I'm the liaison potentially, depending, for the Parks Department. So I just need to make sure that I'm crossing all my T's and dotting all my I's.
Is there any way to ask Monterey to get things approved 2 months in advance?
Probably not. I'm going to be working more on getting the sewage fixed and the benches and the tables repaired for us for Dark Shore.
The other thing the BoD,
I can ask.
Since this is a technically a contract related issue, it sure would be nice if the BoD could find us a new event site that didn't have all these problems and cost $3,500.
The BoD this year found out how we could make that $3,500 cost zero, and nobody decided to take us up on it.
What was that?
The board of directors in 2023 found a way to make the Monterey County event site $0, but nobody decided to take us up on it.
How did they do that?
The volunteer service pathway.
Oh, to go down and work at the site?
We can rent that site for $0 for both events if we simply volunteer to clean the park, plant some trees, because we're a nonprofit.
We should pursue that.
We're also voting in a park that happens to live there.
January.
Yeah. Ooh, good point, Sebastian.
What was that, Sebastian? I didn't hear it. Sorry.
We are right now on the Alding is a park that lives in King City that can greatly help us.
Haven.
That park,
Fairhaven.
that park attended a BOD meeting in, I believe, June. I could be wrong. And that was one of the things we brought up, was we asked them to become a very large park so that they could do those volunteer hours for us.
I was going to point out one other thing. One way the BOD could potentially handle this is if they know Monterey is always going to push us off to the last 2 weeks, is we could schedule that month's BOD meeting to be the week before.
Love it. Love
Yeah.
it.
So
Why
in the
not?
past, we have also talked about getting a prepaid card that we can just give to the autocrats beforehand. This fee could also be part of that card.
Absolutely.
That's a good
In
idea.
regards to, you know,
We-
cleaning up the park and everything, I will say that one of the suggested awards to be given to players is the First Order of the Rose for cleaning up trash for their park. So we could tie some awards to taking care of this service and the fees.
The last monarch stated that they could not guarantee awards in exchange for service, and they could not advertise offering awards for service.
Beyond what is just already listed in the ROP, yeah.
I like the idea about scheduling the BOD meeting around events. I think having a BOD meeting 2 weeks before the scheduled event date is a really good idea.
Or even
Yeah.
even a week and a half or 1 week.
When it's in red on the meeting notes, that means it's important and will absolutely happen.
No caps lock, dude.
Nah, I'm bad at that.
But one thing I did want to say is I don't want Jody to get the idea that I was saying she ever did anything wrong. Everything she described is exactly how I also ran events. And I know she did an excellent job. I did what I could, but I just want to ensure we have oversight. So if somebody gets an event and gets in over their head, they have a little bit of help.
I did not interpret that at all. It was what I thought was there was consistency. You know, our experiences are the same. We just kind of work as a team, dude. Thank you.
I think Jody does everything amazingly, and that's why I bug her to join all the BOD meetings.
Not always. So since I'm not formally a BOD meeting member, I'm gonna bow out. I'm gonna still listen, but I appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Thank you for everything you do, Sir Raven. All right, let's go ahead, just because we are approaching the 2-hour mark. Do we have any topics that people would like to add to November? And let's schedule that November meeting so we can get people to leave if they wish. And then, of course, I'll leave the Zoom meeting open for as long as people like. Do we have any topics that people would like to add to November's BOD meeting? If you don't have any, just drop them in the Discord or PM me later. It doesn't matter. Does anybody have anything that they would like to add at this moment?
Welcoming the new Kingdom Monarchy who are taking over BOD positions.
It's only one, but yeah.
Yeah.
So it just depends when the BOD meeting's scheduled compared to the coronation.
Oh yeah, we should probably schedule the November meeting.
That is on here too. It is October 25th. We should probably backdate the November BOD meeting so we can have people declare and potentially join the December meeting and November meeting, but not too close to Thanksgiving, obviously.
I vote for the 29th.
Do you really?
Well, yeah, because look at it. Like,
all right,
you are busy the week of the 4th. Like, I'm looking at Saturdays here. You're busy the week of the 4th. We're all busy the week of the 11th. Kingdom Coronation is the week of the 18th. Thanksgiving is the week of the 25th. I mean, the 29th is the only week that doesn't have 20 million things going on.
Does anybody have an issue with that meeting time?
Oh, it's a Wednesday.
Fine with me.
Fine.
I mean,
with-
we could change the date. It doesn't have to be Wednesday necessarily, but I would push that week. Thanksgiving's finally done, and hopefully people have somewhat more free time.
So we can food coma during the meeting. Brilliant.
And
There we go. Does anybody have anything against this time? 11/29/23 at 6 p.m.
I mean, Utah it was Tuesdays that was bad for you, right?
Paul, is Wednesdays or Tuesdays bad for you? I believe
It's Tuesdays. I like Wednesdays.
You like Wednesdays? Okay.
Perfect. He only has to drive instead of drive and fight.
And also walk around. There's many a picture of him walking around tonight.
All right. I am going to, just so we can stop recording, does anybody have anything that they would like to say? This is open floor time before we finalize the meeting recording and adjourn the meeting. Is there anything anybody would like to bring up or discuss? This is the open floor time. All right. Do I have a second for adjourning the meeting?
Second.
Wow.
That was super fast. Hey guys, we are under 2 hours. We should be proud of ourselves.